before we go live.
Millie, can you make me a co-host so I can record this, please? Thank you. Okay.
I like the fact that it says this meeting is being recorded. You want to leave or continue?
No, not at all. And we're recording.
Your speaker's on, Molly.
I know, I'm turning it off.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. The New Shoreham Town Council meeting, Monday, October 5th, 2020, 7 p.m. The Town of New Shoreham Town Council is meeting via telecommunications pursuant to the State of Rhode Island Executive Order 2046, dated June 12th, 2020. Town councilors will be recognized before other participants. Please do not speak before you're called on. If you're calling in on your phone, please push star 9 on your phone to raise your hand. The chair will address you by name or by phone number, but please wait to be recognized by the chair before you speak. Push star 6 on your phone to unmute, speak, and star 6 to mute when finished speaking. And please remember, this is a public meeting. We do not have the bandwidth to support a video link for members of the general public, so please dial in or watch YouTube on the YouTube channel. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the warden's report for this evening. In case anyone was wondering, the large barge in Old Harbor will be doing dredging in the channel and in the outer basin, that was the anchorage area. I believe the town is also trying to engage the services to clear out around the old bait dock. There will be other waterborne craft and more land-based equipment arriving soon for the undersea cable project at Town Beach. And along those lines, I'll reiterate a note from facilities manager Sam Bird that we passed along in the middle of September, that with the end of the summer season, National Grid and Ørsted will be commencing the cable reburial project at Fred Benson Beach. Delivery of several pieces of equipment have already taken place in the north lot at Fred and Benson Beach. There will be more equipment arriving and the drilling operation will commence, at which point all the north lot will be occupied and all but the very southern end of the south lot will be occupied. The path to the beach at the south end of the lot will remain accessible though. Please do not park in the north lot or the south lot except at the very south end beginning back in September 15th. We know this will be an inconvenience to many who are used to accessing the Fred Benson Beach all winter. However, it's important that this work be completed, and we thank you everyone for your understanding. With the holiday weekend coming up, I'd like to remind everyone once again to be wary and cautious out on the roads, as we still have mopeds, bicycles, pedestrians, and deer to watch out for. We should all take heed to the words of warning from our own Dr. Warkup in his recent social media message and continue to wear our masks, social distance, monitor our health, wash our hands often, and recreate out of doors while the weather still allows us to. The good doctor also mentioned that the medical center will be starting to administer flu vaccines next week, so watch out for announcements as to when those might be available to us depending on our age and our medical condition. I recently learned that longtime summer residents Linda and Herman Mast of Corn Neck Road will be selling their Block Island home and moving to Virginia. Many listeners may not realize that in addition to their community involvement, the Masts were both directly involved in the renovations of the town hall and the doctor's residence on Payne Road. Herm was the contractor's liaison for the town hall job and the project manager at the doctor's house in the renovation. And Linda was the gardening consultant who made the grounds of the finished properties, public properties, look so nice. To quote a resolution passed in July of 2016 by that town council and affectionately read into the minutes by then Second Warden Norris Pike, the town council on behalf of the people of New Shoreham offers thanks to Herman and Linda Mast for the decades they've given themselves to the island. their adopted half-year home, and extends a particular expression of appreciation, acknowledging that in their involvement in Doctor's house renovation is but the most recent in a long list of times they've stepped forward, never seeking accolades, to see a job to completion for the benefit of all, unquote. I'd like to add the well wishes of this council to Linda and Herm and hope that they find happiness and enough to keep them moderately busy in their new environment. Thank you, Herm and Linda. Andre, do you have anything for us this evening?
No, thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public input. This is the item, part of the meeting where if anyone has anything they want to bring up to our attention briefly that is not already on the agenda, it's the opportunity to do so. We will not take any action or have discussions and lengthy discussions, but it's the opportunity to speak up if there's something that's not on the agenda. Does anyone have anything for us this evening? I don't see any hands raised. Moving on to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is Receiver Warren's report. I have a short report on the financial status of the Island Light and Power Company, which is the entity which is left after selling the assets of the Block Island Power Company to the Block Island Utility District. Andre and I represent the town as shareholders on the Island Light and Power Board of Directors. As we're still in litigation with one former owner of the power company, I don't have a lot to report on. But I can report that the current funds on deposit is approximately $1,795,000. The cost of litigation will determine the final amount, which will be repaid to the town for the funding used to purchase this property. The next item on the agenda is to meet with Charter Review Commission to review the proposed changes to the New Shorehams Charter. I believe we have several members of the commission here with us tonight. I thank you all for joining us. I believe the chairman was Keith Stover. Keith, are you there?
I am.
Would you like to open up the, this is basically your presentation, your committee's presentation of this information to the council for the first time.
Sure.
Start.
Thank you so much, guys. I really should start. This probably makes you guys think I'm even more of a geek than you already do, but this was an immensely satisfying process. The group that you guys selected was had a broad range of interests, very different experiences in town. You know, to your ongoing important point, Andre, it was relatively diverse in terms of age. You know, you had one old guy on it, but he didn't do too badly. You know, the people really came to work. I mean, that was perhaps the most satisfying thing about it, is that everybody came to, you know, nearly every meeting. Everybody did their homework. It is not a terribly sexy job, but it's really important. As Marianne said to us last week, this charter really is the Bible for how you go about things in town. So I just, I really had to start out by, you know, thanking Kim and Molly and Rob and Lisa and Chelsea. It really was a terrific process. I also have to say thank you to Molly Fitzpatrick and Millie McGinnis. About halfway, actually I think less than halfway through our process, we lost a clerk, and I was I was the clerk, and I called on Molly and Millie, I swear, multiple times a week, and there was never a moment they didn't have the time or advice or patience to deal with my inability to understand how you post agendas, you know, and that kind of thing. So, and then finally, just really quick, Molly and Kim and I had the chance to meet with Marianne Crawford on Friday. And she gave us over 2 hours on Friday afternoon, just extraordinarily generous, really, really knew the stuff, understood how important the charter is, asked great questions, had great input. And I know I left the meeting thinking that you guys had really chosen well there. So, I wanted to say thank you to her. Before I'm just going to walk you through kind of, I don't know how much you want to go section by section, but I'll give you the overview, because we basically, I would say that things are separated into two buckets in the changes that we're suggesting. One of them, I would describe as kind of transparency, public access to information, broadcasting meetings, sort of that kind of using social media more to let townspeople know what's going on, et cetera. It's actually kind of interesting. When we started this process, this was clearly a priority for everybody on the committee. I think as we advance through the terrible pandemic and the shutdown and lockdown and sheltering in place, et cetera, I think we felt that it sort of became even more imperative. And I think the town, with the YouTube and with the Zoom is a ham-handed tool, but people do call in and monitor. The YouTube videos get an extraordinary amount of views. And I think this is probably a genie that can't be put back in the bottle, but I think we've very much kind of waited about as long as the community can for very clear direction in the fundamental guiding principles of the charter, that we are going to be a town that has absolute transparency. And frankly, given our community where we have a lot of people who pay a lot of taxes who are not here for many months out of the year, being able to get on YouTube and see how things are working, see what's happening, for example, at some point at a zoning meeting or a planning meeting, all that stuff. I think that's kind of what people are demanding in our culture now. And you'll see as you read through this that throughout the document, we have many places where we talk about how essential that part of it is. Anybody on the committee want to comment about that? No?
I was just going to say, it's almost as though you're already putting in place some of the things in this regard that we were talking about. It's almost like you've already put them into action, which has been great. You're making it very accessible to be a part of this town without having to actually be in person.
Thank you, Lisa. Rob, go ahead, Keith.
One thing I forgot to do, I didn't see his frame. You guys were kind enough to give us permission to have a charter specialist as counsel. His name is Dylan Conley. He's on the call now. I can't tell you how much of a burden he's lifted on us, just for the last month of work. This is a relatively complex document, and a layman can't really, you can only take it so far in terms of the draft. The second bucket that we focused on was, I think it's fair to call it kind of government organization. It is everything from staggered terms for members of the town council, which I know you guys have. I can't remember how many of you were on the town council 10 years ago, but I know some of our people on the charter review committee, and I think you, Chris, were on the last charter review, and this was an idea that was advanced then. I think we've refined it pretty significantly. I think mechanically it works better because while we're extending terms of from 2 to 4 years, you're not going to have annual elections. You know, part of the snag with the previous draft on staggered terms is that you'd have to have an election every November. So we've tried to avoid that. There is, as we're reading through this thing, we're noticing technical, glitches, language glitches. Kim Gaffett actually just pointed one out to me that will fix. But you'll see it in the document in a couple of places, the staggered terms. The other important thing I think we've done in terms of government organization is in terms of the town manager's responsibilities, we're suggesting that the town manager not also be the head of the Department of Public Works. We felt strongly, and others like throughout the community and in government, I think felt that those two jobs are both very large jobs. I mean, we have a number of major public projects, or we seem to have a number of major public projects. And I don't know how you can do both those jobs well right now. And the committee was felt very strongly about that. Rob, I don't know whether you're online, but I know you were one of the important advocates for that particular piece. No.
Yeah. Are you asking Rob Foster?
Rob
Rob,
Foster?
are you there? You have to unmute yourself, Rob. Star 6.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go.
I was just asking if you wanted to add anything on DPW, because I know that was an important thing of yours.
No, I think you covered it all, Keith.
Okay. The other thing that we did, what you'll see in here is under this broad heading is change the police commission from a may to a shall, and insert language that requires the chief to meet with the police commission 4 times a year. I think it was this may be an imperfect tool, but it was our impression, and I think the impression of a lot of folks in the community, that there seemed to be a bit of a breakdown in communication this summer, and people were struggling a bit to understand where the chief was coming from, where the department was coming from, and we viewed this actually as a tool for the department to have a broader base of people with whom they're communicating. I hope people see and take it that way, because I think it will be a great positive. You're not talking about meeting once a week with the chief, or making policy or making any decisions. It's just really a communication thing. Sorry, Chris. Did you want to ask something, Chris?
Yeah. Was there any recommendation for the makeup of the commission, or was that simply at the pleasure of the town council?
Pleasure of the council, if I recall correctly.
Thank you.
It used to be a May, basically.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Keith,
Yeah.
I know you're doing an overview now. Are we going to go section by section?
We can absolutely do that whenever you want to. We thought this would, our sense was that this would be more conversational than technical. I mean, God knows, all of us have lived with this thing for almost a year now. So we're happy to go section by section. If you'd like, I can do a quick section by section if you want.
I guess it would be, and I leave it up to the rest of the council as well, but it would help me to do an overview. I've got your document that came out from Marianne this afternoon. Hey, section 104, here's the brief top line.
Okay.
And any sort of conceptual questions, and we don't want to get down in, well, I'm not ready to get down in nitty gritty. I think it would be helpful to at least get the rubber to touch the road.
We'll do whatever you guys want. I wanted to err on the side of less time, more general, but I'm happy. We have all have all the stuff in front of us. So you want me to run through the sections? You know, I'll run through the sections where we have changes. Okay.
Yeah. And can we discuss them just generally, or is it okay?
Yeah, I mean. All right, right off the top, conduct of town business. This is where we make the initial statement about broad and timely access to information. We start out with requiring broadcast of town council planning and zoning meetings with the goal to broadcast ultimately as many of the meetings that are of the committees in Article 9 as is feasible. You know, there's a lot in here, and Mary Ann pointed this out to Kim and Molly and me the other day, where we're talking about digital platforms. We do not intend those as gotchas where, you know, the poor town clerks have to run around because they didn't get something on Twitter before the meeting, but it really is a reflection of the demand. I mean, all of us have young people in our lives, and if we're working over the next 10 years to bridge the gap for a younger group to become more engaged and involved in government, we got to do more than clerk base and, you know, a sign at the post office and grocery store. We really do.
So if I can just jump in on 104, I'm 100%, 110% with you, not with the gotchas, but with the concept and videotaping and recording. It's critical.
One of the things we did that was really pretty interesting is look at the charters of other small towns. And the next section that changes is it's a new section 2 and 3, and it's a light version of initiative and referendum.
Okay, can I back up then?
Martha, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, Martha. Sorry.
It's Martha. I've got a question. Because and some of these things struck me, but in 104 was very much one of them. That and you said you looked at charters of other towns. Do other towns have this in the charter? This sort of thing in the charter or in the rules of procedure? It just seems something that's so subject to change that it may be outdated in 5 years, much less 10.
Well,
and do
what
other towns have that sort of thing in the charter or in the rules of procedure?
you know, I'm not sure of the answer to that. I think it's and please others chime in here. I think it's fair to say that there is some frustration certainly in the community about kind of being relatively far behind where other government entities are in terms of public access to information, documents, being able to do things online, et cetera. And I know we've all sort of had these conversations literally for years, and it's always kind of the next thing that's going to happen. So I'd like to put it in the charter, and if it's all going well and people want to rip it out in 10 years, God bless them. But I'm very worried that you know, if it's not in the charter, it's you know, always going to potentially fall off the agenda.
Okay, that didn't answer my question.
No,
Can I-
probably not.
I think
but it felt
to
good
answer your
say it.
question,
Wait.
Martha, sorry,
I
someone
said
else
I
was
don't
speaking.
know whether it's in other charters.
Okay, thanks.
And there is a section in the charter already that was on the publication of meetings and the posting of meetings. So we really just took what was there and beefed it up, sort of modernized it to include some of the other more current publication sources as opposed to what was current 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think what was current 10 years ago was just a reflection of what was the old state law. I guess it's like a zoning, or not a zoning, but there are certain regulations in town that we don't put in ordinance form because it's so difficult to change and simply a reference to. And I wonder how other towns are handling it. I don't disagree with any of the rationale behind this. I'm talking about the process of the charter versus policies and regulations and what other places do.
It's a good question. I don't know.
It's not the content. It's the method. That's all.
Kim Gafford would like to ask something here.
Kim, thank you. I see your hand. Hold on, please, for a second, please. I have several hands up, and I was just waiting for everyone to pause before I could start calling on them. Andre, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Ken. I should have asked this before we started. So we have the amendments to the home rule charter, and we're discussing these as an opening volley tonight. First time we're all seeing this. So what is the procedure for this? Just to let the public know what happens with this document within the next coming weeks. I mean, what is the procedure for this document in the coming weeks?
Do you have an answer to that question?
If I may, through the chair.
Go ahead, Dylan.
So in order for a charter amendment to be placed on a ballot, you have to pass a resolution. That resolution, in my recommendation, it's best practice that it includes both the exact change to the charter language as well as a ballot question itself, because the charter change will not necessarily be the exact language that's placed on the ballot. So that's subject to unilateral council approval. So the councilors can amend any of the resolutions that's been presented. And really, it's up to you to sort of guarantee that the ballot question is representative of the actual ballot changes. And that's what the process is. So it is only a resolution. So when you give notice, it's only the standard sort of 48-hour Secretary of State notice. The reason for that is because it will be on a ballot eventually, so the public will have full participation.
Andre, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Connolly. Appreciate that. So just so everyone's clear, we can edit, we can make changes, we can leave it the way it is, but the voters will be voting on this in the town of New Shoreham on November 3rd? Or whenever we choose to have an election.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilman Willie?
I'm sorry, one more time, but it has to be before the end of this year? Is that the time constraint we're on? Or it can be, because I know our charter expires this year, right?
No.
I don't believe that there's a time limit on when you actually have to enact any of these amendments. There just is a logistical time limit where you have to get the items approved by the Secretary of State's office about 60 days before an election. So you have to have a bit of a walk back. I think Keith may have been gesturing.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I know that my clerk Molly has explained this before. I was kind of, that's what I was trying to get at, was when we had to get this done. So we're not on a strict deadline, so to speak, right now.
Andre, the only thing mentioned in the charter is that it has to be reviewed on every so many years. It's not
Right, every 10,
not necessarily a time limit.
but it's every 10, right?
Review.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Kim Gafford, go ahead.
Actually, I was going back to the Martha's question, and I was just trying to get the attention on to Dylan Connolly to answer about other charters and whether or not it's appropriate to have that general language in the charter. I think it's already been explained that we put it there so it'd be a shall, not a may. But I think Dylan could answer Martha's question about other charters.
So I think other charters do routinely have a language about how materials are presented and notice deadlines and those sorts of things. Language specific to the different forms of broadcasting is probably just an evolution in that historic language that you need to post notices 7 days in advance in this sort of periodical, 10 days in advance in these sorts of locations. So while I'm not aware of language that is exactly one-for-one comparable, it does seem, in my eyes, to follow in the tradition of controlling how notice functions.
Thank you, Dylan. Keith, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted, I saw that Molly was going to say something. I believe our plan, the thought that Molly had is the legislature is going to act on a bond package. And then the bond package will have to be voted on at a statewide referendum sometime later this year. So we could get this stuff on that ballot. Is that right, Molly? I don't want to.
Molly Fitzpatrick, go ahead.
That's right. Since it's a full statewide election coming up, it's sometime later this winter or early next spring. And since the charter questions have to be voted on in a full elective referenda situation, we thought the only thing to do is combine them rather than have two more full elections. So we're not sure on the timing of it because we don't know when the General Assembly is going to come out with their questions. But any charter questions that go forward, any resolutions that go forward, and the wording of the questions have to be ready 60 days in advance of that election that the General Assembly is going to push forward. We don't know their timing, so our thought was to get this in the pipeline. It doesn't seem like a screaming hurry right now because the indications are that it's going to be later winter or spring, but we should have it ready.
Okay, thank you, Molly.
Sure.
Great. So I was mentioning there's a section on initiative and referendum that's based on modal content language. It's a very extremely high bar in a small town like ours. But I would urge you to take a look at it and we can talk about it. Next change is some of the financial town meeting stuff, which is largely.
Hold on a second, Keith. Sven, did you have a question?
Yeah. Sorry.
You're muted.
On that, section 203, I believe it is, trying to understand a little bit about where that comes from and or the issues, because as I believe we're sort of elected as representatives of the people, right? And reflect that, and especially as we get further down where it's a little bit of staggered. So we aren't necessarily an initiative and referendum state versus representative people, and just trying to figure out where this is coming from so I understand the background better. I like the concept, I guess, but it seems very counter to the post.
I actually view it as in a way it's almost like a town meeting, but using the ballot box instead. And it's basically if somebody is if you have a group that is feels like they're banging their heads against the wall on either trying to get something passed or trying to repeal something or whatever, there is this provision. You have to form a committee. You have to file as a committee. You have to go out and get signatures of, I think it's 10% of the electorate. Then when you get all of that, you go to the town council and you say to the town council, we have, you know, whatever, 20% of the people in town want you to take another look at that thing you've been rejecting. The town council then has an opportunity to take another look. You know, there's many, many steps before you get to it, but it, you know, the idea is if you were to have, you know, a situation where community and a town council were out of step with one another, it's a method for people to be able to address that.
So, and you're thinking, I'm sorry to continue, you're thinking out of
No.
budget. So it's not anything that would be handled in the budget process when we have
No,
our.
not, I mean, not really. It would be outside of that. And I think, as I said, I mean, and take a look at the bar. I mean, I think the bar is really pretty high. This is not to characterize Molly or anybody's Fitzpatrick's position on it or anything, but she had some really good input when we met with Molly and Millie around you know, the essential need for legal review, not having multiple bites at the apple on this, so that you're not having the same referendum every 90 days or whatever, you know, from a bunch of people. So, you know, take a look. I actually thought it was pretty interesting, and frankly, I've never been much of an initiative and referendum guy philosophically, but I kind of like this language. The financial town meeting stuff is largely transparency, but this is, I have to give Molly her due credit for this. She insisted on a sentence that says, it shall be considered the duty of each member of the community to attend the financial town meeting.
Could I pause you for a minute? Kim,
Yeah.
I just saw your hand up. Please go ahead.
Sorry to go backwards. It was just a clarification on the initiative and referendum. When you're looking at it, among the high bar is that it does not apply to a comp plan or zoning ordinances, which are the majority of council action, ordinance type actions. It'd be more, you know, like a philosophical change or adding something, you know, maybe an environmental cleanup ordinance that we wanted or didn't want, something like that. But it's important to note that it does not apply to zoning and comp plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank
Keith,
you,
one
Kim.
other question I had along one a preliminary question. Obviously, we're going to have to spend more time on this, but when you talk about the high bar and that sort of thing, obviously this is going to create some extra work for the clerk's office in terms of having to have the Board of Canvassers review the signatures for each application or each provision change that's presented. And then you mentioned something about, you know, not getting multiple bites of the apple. Is it going to be some sort of a limitation on how many of these can be done per year, by per person, or per concept, or how would
you know, I hadn't really thought about. Oh, sorry.
Let me finish, please.
Sorry, Ken.
How would you do? My question is, how would you do that without disenfranchising in some way either a group or an individual who may just have multiple ideas they want to try to propose or prepend?
So the way that it's drafted, once if there's a referendum and one side wins, or one, you know, what basically that question cannot be asked again for 12 months.
Okay.
So I guess if you know, I had 3 different things I wanted to do, it's not me that it's excluded. It's just that the question, I mean, you could imagine someone using this as a tool to kind of like bludgeon the town every 90 days to, you know, decide that they wanted the street signs to be orange, you know. So it's to try to keep it from being trivialized. I don't know whether that answers all the questions, but that's how it's drafted.
Okay.
The 302 is a fix on the, or a process for when there's a vacancy in the town moderator position. 401,
That, Keith?
Hmm?
Can I ask a question on that? I mean, it's been, at least myself, someone's mentioned it before, that what about the possibility of having the town clerk be a ex officio in the absence of a town moderator for any particular meeting or whatnot? Was that considered during this conversation?
this falls to our expert, former town moderator, Molly O'Neill. Molly, are you still on? Molly?
I don't see her on the list.
No. Did she, I know she was afraid she was going to get stuck on the mainland. Yes, I believe we did, Ken. I don't know whether anybody else on the committee remembers this particular thing. Kim, do you?
Kim, go ahead.
We did discuss it quite a bit, especially since when we met with different people, including the town council. We remember that, Ken, you did bring that up then. So we discussed it pretty fully, and as a group, we felt that should be up to the town council to choose the person, and that there was really so much other stuff associated with town meeting that the town clerk has to do, that to have them also be the moderator was not an efficient way to go, and that we should have a more neutral type of person appointed by, in the case of an absence, by the town council. So we discussed it quite a bit, and this was the conclusion we came to.
Thank you, Kim.
401 is the beginning of the staggered term language. The rest of it is further back. 402 is regarding town council members serving on boards and committees. And instead of having the ability to make broad exceptions, we're suggesting that exceptions be limited to special circumstances for a specific duration.
Hold on, Keith. Oh, it's been recent.
Keith, going back to 401 for a minute. I'm hugely in favor of staggered terms, and I think the 4 years, to your earliest comments, makes it a little bit less annual. Did you guys discuss the fact that a second warden could actually not be an elected position, but rather potentially a vote of the council members that have been
vote
elected,
getter,
or
vote
something
council.
like that. And the reason I say that is, and I think we're going to see it this year. I mean, the town council is going to lose a great participant in the first warden spot. You know, one of them, unfortunately, will not be on the council. And if in the same case, second warden were to be contested, you're going to lose another person. So I'm just wondering whether, I guess I'm in favor of second warden being somehow a vote of the council, or somehow simply determined, because it's really not a leadership role per se. It's a backbone role, I think, or at least that's the way I look at it. So I didn't know if you guys had looked at that at all.
We did. We probably talked about this issue, not just the second warden, but the staggering of terms. Frankly, figuring out the math, what do you do in 2022? What do you do in 2024? How's that all work? But also about this, the second warden question. And, as you can see from the draft, we sort of came down in favor of keeping it the way that it is. I mean, we spent hours on this thing, but and I have to tell you, every time I have a conversation about it, I change my mind. So
Thank you.
I wish I could tell you, oh yeah, here's why we came to that conclusion. I think we just decided that we were going to do the staggered terms. We wanted to make sure that we had continuity and some institutional memory, and we weren't blowing out five people in one election, and struggling, and et cetera. So anyway,
Thank you.
certainly up to you if you want to consider that further.
Ken?
Yes, Martha, go ahead.
Yeah, I always say offer from having been there with a almost entirely new council a couple of times. It wasn't a problem at all. You have a much bigger problem when you have people with no background. But I would say, background in any kind of governance. What you've come up with among all of the things that have been thrown out over the years and tossed out and discussed, this is the only one that's come close to making sense to me.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Rob Kloster?
To go back to what Sven was saying, was one of the reasons that we chose to not choose a second warden as a general in regards to voting or let the council is if that second warden did not want to become the first warden, because if something ever happened with the first warden, the second warden would then have to take the lead.
Thank you, Rob.
I'd forgotten about that. That's right.
Thank you, Rob. Kim Gaffett?
And we also felt that it was more appropriate that the people elect the second warden, not the 4 members of the town council. So we wanted to keep it more of the people's vote as well.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
So the specific, basically town council members can only serve on committees in a special circumstances for a specified and limited duration. Codifying the ability to comment at each regular meeting of the town council, and again on distribution of materials. Compensation. I'm going to ask somebody else to do this because I'm uncomfortable talking about the compensation piece because I'm a candidate, but the group without me spent some time talking about this one. If someone else would handle that, that'd be great.
Oh, may I jump in?
About it.
Please.
Kim
Right.
Gaffett.
All right, I hope Rob and some others will follow up, but we felt pretty strongly that the compensation hadn't changed in years and the job has gotten bigger and bigger, and that we're trying to figure out ways that would also help people to choose to run for election. And thus, we really thought that making a town council member eligible for getting into the town's health insurance program would be and help people choose to run for council as part of the compensation package. And so that was the main provision on there that we added in there. It was that way many years ago, and a lot of us thought it made sense to make it to put that back in.
Rob Kloster?
Yeah, just to go off what Kim stated there, was we felt as though the council is taking on a lot more. We felt as though the council is valuable, and we couldn't come up with language on how to dictate a certain amount inside the charter, and thought that the benefits would be the best approach to it.
Thank you, Rob. Chris Willie?
Can I just clarification when I read this, and Kim, did you mean that any elected official right now is eligible to buy into the town insurance policy, as I understand it? So
Yeah,
do you mean that we can enroll at the town's expense into the insurance? So we basically, whoever's on the town council would just get benefits or could get benefits.
Whoever's on the town council would get the benefit paid for by the town.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted clarification on that. When I read it,
Yeah.
I interpreted it as you're eligible to basically buy in, which councilmen are now. So I just wanted clarification. Thanks.
I will say there are a few things here where we may all think it means something different. So if anybody disagrees with my interpretation, please jump in. We're still working it out as we go as well. But
Thank you, Kim. Any other comments on that one? Keith, go ahead.
Section 408, powers and duties of town council. Not a lot of significant change, but you'll see O and P, which are really two of they're sort of part of the same, cut from the same cloth, and that is trying to work to have members of the town council perhaps more actively engage with the boards and commissions. We've seen some of the attendance problems at some of these boards and committees, and we just think some account. What's that?
We want to fill them with council members instead?
Yeah, I know. Maybe we shouldn't do the other thing, and we should. I know.
I'm sorry, Keith.
No, you're absolutely right. It's a problem. But I mean, I'm being undoubtedly probably too optimistic, but I'm really hopeful that with more information being pumped out, people will be more interested.
Lisa Rob, hold on. Lisa Rob.
And I was just going to clarify, the attendance is not necessarily the attendance of the audience. It's the attendance of the board members of these commissions, and making sure that that the people who are on these boards and commissions are actually participating in them.
Right. Okay. As far as P is concerned, the problem, I mean, it's a grand idea and a grand scheme, but the problem has always been trying to schedule those many boards and commissions meetings, quote unquote, regularly with the council, in addition to all the meetings that they have to attend and all the meetings the council has to attend. So it becomes a bit of a logistical issue, and there are times when the council has to meet and chooses to meet with certain boards or commissions for a specific reason that's come up, or that there might be mutual concerns that need to be discussed. But to mandate to mandate a certain number of meetings a year with each board or commission, I think might be a bit onerous logistically. Chris, Willie?
But we can't deny the fact that we have some boards and committees and commissions that are advisory to the town council, yet we don't give them any direction to go in.
Right.
So I understand the desired change or the recommended change. But I also recognize your point, Ken, is I think we have an awful lot of boards and committees comparatively. And to meet with all of them annually is problematic. I think we actually tried to do that, and we actually had a schedule, and that, never mind what, the COVID factor, it kind of fell to the wayside. But I get the intent. So even if it's limited to those boards or committees that are supposed to be advisory to the council, because if they're not given direction by the town council, then they're wasting their time. And we've seen some committees do that, is they spend a bunch of time on something and then they come to the town council and we've, in the past 3 years, and we've sat there and said, why are you doing this? We didn't ask you to. So I agree with both parties on this. I think the list of boards and committees is enormous and problematic to meet with all of them, but at the very least, I think whomever are advisory to the town council should have the courtesy of us giving them or having the town council give them direction.
And I think the language on this is, may well be imperfect, but I think, among our group, and clearly pursuant to this discussion, it's something we should talk about and work on, if you want to.
Thank you, Keith. Hold on a second. Kim Gaffer?
Yeah, I just want to say, we talked about these two provisions with Marianne Crawford as well, and she has some interesting ideas, but raised the same issue about time. And since we're still, doing last minute drafting and fixing the things, we might want to consider something in, like establish a process to conduct the annual review. So that process might be something like asking the boards and commissions to give the report in a written form to the town council, and then the town council couldn't form up. That could be, we could change, if we put the process, that would give a little bit more flexibility in the town council to decide how they're going to do this, which might not be an annual meeting with every board. And as far as P goes, develop a plan for council members to meet regularly with each town board and commission. Again, develop a plan and put it in place, and hopefully you don't have COVID-2 and other things that disrupt the plan. But again, it's a 2-year term for every council. I mean, it's a 2-year turnover. Maybe it's not annual for that section. Maybe regular is once a term with the town council, so that at least every new iteration of the town council is meeting with the board and commission, understanding what they do, understanding where their issues are. So I think there's enough flexibility in these, but again, it makes sure that attention is given.
Thank you, Kim. Sven Riesman?
Yeah, Kim, you were in some of the meetings about 1.5 years ago. I fell on some spears for this whole topic, and I am wholeheartedly in support of the concept. But as Ken and Chris have alluded, I think we have committees and groups that we're not in, that council is not in communication with. So sometimes we're passing ships in the night. That's a problem. 2, the calendars didn't work, so it was hard to get to all those meetings. And when we started to develop a plan, it literally fell off the tracks pretty quickly, just because nobody could quite do it all. So I think we do need to figure out a way, which could even include less boards and commissions. But I think this is a really important point about governmental linkage and functionality. How do we make sure that all the hands are sort of heading in different directions? And that there's feedback up to the council that we should be working on certain things. So I think this dialogue between committees, commissions, and groups is really important. And keep it in here as far as the dialogue goes, and we'll figure out how to make it work. Really important point. Thank you.
May I follow up, or?
Kim, go ahead.
I just follow up, just a little bit of a quip. I know what it's like to try to do this, and I know it can happen because I've done it for 4 years in the past and met with every committee. You just have to you got to stick to your guns. Thank you.
Ken?
Yes, Martha, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, but as I recall, I'm not sure it was every board in 1 year. It may have been over 2 years. It was quite a while ago. And we also, I think we tend to forget in this whole process that our government is not what it was 20 years ago. We do have a town manager, or 30 years ago, or 40, whenever it was. And there are some places where I don't think council intervention is necessarily the appropriate method of of operating here. We, the old flow chart thing, we gotta get the flow chart back on the wall, and, who's dealing with whom. The last thing council needs to be doing is micromanaging that.
Thank you, Martha. Keith, go ahead.
Can I just say, Molly O'Neill was trying to get in, and for some reason wasn't being let in. I don't know whether she's still in the waiting line. We also spoke with Marianne Crawford about Section 502. We have the town manager has to move in within 90 days. Two things. One is she suggested 180, just because the logistics of moving, especially nowadays, are pretty challenging. And I think that, probably makes some sense. But the other thing is she was actually going to check and see whether she thought Rhode Island may have passed a law prohibiting this. So we'll talk, Marianne, at some point.
That is
Powers and duties.
residency requirement.
Residency requirement, yeah.
Okay.
We have one in the charter now. So Marianne was checking on that. Powers and duties of the town manager. One of the things we have in here is a report in December analyzing and reporting on how we did the previous summer with traffic, public safety, public health, et cetera. Instead of doing it when we're all decompressing in like we are now, mid-October, give the town manager an opportunity to really take a look at things, talk to people, talk to residents, talk to the police, talk to business owners, et cetera, and talk to the rescue squad, talk to the medical center, to give a comprehensive report. Again, K&L are in the broadcast transparency, et cetera. We felt it was important to give someone specific that responsibility. Then, as we said, the town manager not being the head of the Department of Public Works, an additional budget hearing in 605. We did a lot of work and I put a lot of thought into departments and agencies. What we're suggesting here is a Department of Public Works, a Department of Community Development, and a Department of Administration and Human Services. Seems like a more rational structure. None of these things contemplates or suggests hiring additional people. It just really a lot of this was from spending time with Ed Roberge when we started our work to make it to make things basically flow better in terms of the town government's departmental structure. Anybody on the committee have anything to add to that? I know it's a big thing that we're suggesting there. No.
An interesting comment, Keith, you make that you're talking about having these positions but not hiring any additional personnel to cover them. Have you?
Well, I think
been fleshed out?
we think there are people probably doing most of these jobs right now.
Could I follow up on that?
Go ahead, Kim Gaffett.
I think we were thinking not so much that these are personnel positions, but these are organizational positions as a way of organizing the tasks of the town in a logical, what we thought was a logical format. But it didn't necessarily mean that you needed a standalone new department head for each one of those things. It was basically a reorganization, and there's a lot of, in most cases, you could have multiple people being responsible for that area and have the title department head of that area, but not necessarily be a new job. And one thing I think and we haven't talked about this yet, but when we go to try to promote this publicly, I think we should try to put together like a flow chart that shows how those fit in. And, a flow chart, a visual often will help with this a lot more than what's written there, but we haven't discussed that yet in terms of promoting this document.
Thank you, Kim. Rob Coster?
In doing the DPW position, one thing we did not want to do specifically was hold you to doing it a certain way. We tried to format it so you could come up with the umbrella of how you wanted to do it based on your flow chart.
All right. Next section is that's the staggered terms. The other part of staggered terms. That's 1211. Then 907 is the Police Advisory Commission, which we discussed before.
We
And
back up
that-
to staggered terms for a minute.
What's that?
We back up to staggered terms for a moment.
Yeah, please.
I'm just curious, not being a fly on the wall, obviously, in these meetings, but what the conversation was in terms of finding folks who are willing to run for a 4-year term, as opposed to 2. Chris, did you want to answer that? Chris Willie?
I'm not going to answer it, but I just want to make the observation. That was what was brought up 10 years ago, and I have yet to find somebody that's run for 2 terms or for 2 years. Other than candidate or folks that had to leave for other reasons, I don't recall anybody that's run just for 2 years.
Okay.
And that's, that was this, your point was brought up before 10 years ago. And I just don't see it as a deterrent, personally, because I just don't see a history with that being not an issue, but I just don't see that happening in the past. Do you? I mean, Kim's been on the council. She's on the call. Ken, you've been around. Martha's been around. When was the last time you had just people run for 2 years and then not run again?
Last 2 times around, 2 times back. Kim Gaffney?
I basically agree with Chris that it's very rare that somebody who runs doesn't also run a second time. But we also had other considerations. I mean, this is the key point that's often brought up against the idea. There's a couple of things. The learning curve to do the job is stiff. And I would say that you're a year to a year and a half into it before you really feel like you have your feet under your ground, if you haven't on the ground, if you haven't done it before. And by that time, if it's a 2-year term, you're starting to run again. We also felt that we really think this makes the most sense from a governance point of view for Block Island at this time. And that we should be putting this forward. And if the people don't want it because they're afraid to run for 4, or they're intimidated to run for a 4-year term, and it doesn't work, well, then we'll learn that. But I think for better government on Block Island, it's time to do this, and we felt that we needed to put it forward. And I was among those at the last time sitting on the council on the other side of this chair who bought the argument that people wouldn't run for 2 years. But right now it's hard to get people to run. I mean, people wouldn't run for 4 years. It's hard to get people to run for 2 years. If we get them, let's keep them at least through the learning curve. So.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Kim. Molly, did you
Okay.
have any?
Lisa had. I know Lisa had.
I know, but Molly was had
Oh,
trouble getting
gotcha.
back on, so I thought she wanted, I think I saw her hand up. Molly, are you there? You have to unmute yourself.
I took my hand away because I was pretty
Okay.
much going to say what Kim said.
Okay.
I think one of the other things we discussed, though, was that with staggered terms, someone who is considering running will know who some of the people on the council will be. And that can be helpful as well in your decision to run for an office.
Thank you, Molly. Lisa Ruff?
I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that there'd only be 2 people running for a 2-year term for just the 2022 election. After that, it will be, everybody's going to be running for 4 years beyond that, so.
Good point. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the comment. I just think it needed to be said why the chair, because of the draft. So,
It's a good question. The thing that swung me on it was Kim's argument, and that is I think, you know, you see it with 2-year congressional terms too. It's a lot to figure out how everything works, and as Kim says, then just as you're figuring out how it works, you've got to either run for re-election or decide not to. It's not easy.
Martha, did you have some input?
No, the only thing I was going to say, and I'm in favor of the 4-year, just as a matter of practicality and everything that Kim said and the learning curve, and because the way my version of how government should work out here isn't, you know, everybody should be on the zoning board first. So you understand the ordinances you're passing. I'm just giving a little plug there, but I don't think you can say who's run only for, you know, 1-2-year term, because I think a lot of those people may never have run at all for 4 years. So I just don't think that's a valid argument. I do think for the sake of better governance, let's try it.
Thank you, Martha. Go ahead.
I'm done.
I'm sorry.
Did you ask me to go on?
Yeah, go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm finished. The last thing was the police.
You're about to touch on the police advisory commission. I interrupted.
Yes. No, as I said earlier, we changed the police commission from a may be a police commission to a shall be a police commission, and create a requirement that the department leadership meet with the commission quarterly. You know, to give update status. I actually think that's a really important component of this thing. I know, and we had a lot of back and forth on this. I don't think it's a perfect tool. I don't view it as, you know, it's not like some big policy making committee, but I think the more communication nowadays that there is, that we can foster between police department and the community, the better.
Thank you, Keith. Anyone on the council have any other questions for Keith or the commission as we have him here tonight for this first meeting? Sven Reesum, go ahead.
I want to ask another question. I've done that. I just want to congratulate, compliment the whole committee and the extended committees. I know one of the frustrations that's been voiced in the past that these things had, you know, last time weren't voted on and really taken up. I am excited about this, and I really thank all of you for forwarding this, and I look forward to the ongoing discussions. So thank you.
Thank you, Sven. Rob Kloster.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Keith Stover. He put forth a lot of work on this, which everyone did, but he absolutely put above and beyond on that, and he should be thanked tremendously for it.
Keith, thank you tremendously.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your
Thank
time
you.
and your effort on it. And obviously, you know, a committee is only as good as the leader sometimes. And obviously, you cracked the whip enough to get everybody, keep everybody interested, and deliver us a product we can have some lively discussions about.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Anything further for anyone on this item?
Don't think so.
I don't think it's too redundant to ditto what Rob said. Keith has done a fantastic job and been a great mentor to all of us. So I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, Kim Gaffett.
It's the beard.
It is, yeah, clearly. Thank you, guys.
Next item on the agenda, everyone, will be boards, committees, and commissions. We have, first item is to receive a resignation from the Deer Task Force. We have a resignation we received just recently from Dick Stinson. Please accept my resignation from the Deer Task Force. It's a pleasure to serve on the committee. Thank you. We've also previously haven't received a formal resignation, but in missing 3 meetings, Kirk himself has pointed out that he should be off the committee. So we have another opening on the Deer Task Force, given that. Reviewing the vacancies that we are not going to act on tonight is the Block Island School Committee. As you know, there's going to be 2 openings, one of which will be dealt with during the election, I believe. There's another opening that the council will be appointing, but we can do that after the 24th of October and not until, because of postings. There's an opening in the Board of Assessment Review. There is an opening on motor vehicles for hire. We're waiting for the elapse of the time period to do an appointment for that. There is an opening on the Zoning Board and Recreation Committee. As you see in the last item on this agenda, receive and act on offers to serve on the Zoning Board and Recreation Committee. We do have an opening on the Zoning Board, which has been posted for the appropriate amount of time. And we have an offer to serve from Rob Kloster. I believe that's the only one we have at this point. Is that correct, Molly Fitzpatrick?
That's the only one I received for the zoning board.
Thank you.
Is Rob Kloster still here? Is he on?
Yes.
Did he drop off?
I think he did.
All right. I'll make a motion to appoint Rob Kloster Jr. to the zoning board.
Second.
Motion made by Andre to appoint Rob Kloster to the zoning board, seconded by Chris Willie. Sven, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
It was just done.
Okay, all right. Any further comments or questions? We have a motion on the floor. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of appointing Rob Kloster to the zoning board? Andre?
Aye.
Chris Willie?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Rob Kloster out there. You are not been appointed as a alternate to the zoning board. Next item on the agenda is the Recreation Committee. We do have an opening in the Recreation Committee. Molly, can you confirm how many letters of interest we have in that?
Right now, I've only seen 1 letter of interest for that.
Okay, but that is an appointment we can make this evening, correct?
You may, you don't have to.
Understood. We do have a letter of interest that was sent in from Eileen Burke on September 29th. Please accept the email as my letter of intent for the vacancy on the Recreation Board. I feel I bring a diverse set of experience, education, and inspiration to the board and community. Please let me know if you have any additional questions or any additional information from me. So we do have 1 letter of interest for that position on the Rec Committee.
Ken, may I, Molly and Ken?
Andre, go ahead.
I got my email open here. I wasn't aware of a letter being sent from anyone. I'm looking on the 29th. It doesn't matter. I don't have, does anybody else not have a letter?
I don't have it.
That's an administrative error then, in that it wasn't distributed to you guys yet. So let me get that all out to you. It doesn't seem like that appointment is really pressing at this point. It's the alternate position. My apologies. I'll circulate that to you.
Molly, can I get a clarification on what's the rec board has an alternate and 1 it has 2 positions open, right?
I think it's just the one position, Chris. Is it 2 positions? You're on that board, right?
I know, that's why, and I thought it was just an alternate.
I do too. Does the posting say full and alternate? Let me just pull it up.
Oh, the posting just says a recreation committee.
The vacancy is the alternate, and you've
Okay.
been functioning for a long time without it.
All right, so
Thanks.
the point being, you can disseminate this letter of interest, and we can act on it at the next meeting if we decide to. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Point of clarification, Ken, was the zoning board an alternate, or wasn't that a regular position based on Elizabeth's?
No, they voted someone up to the position of the chairman or whatever, and the opening that I see listed by Molly was a zoning board one-year alternate position. Molly, can you correct me on that if necessary?
The appointments are always made to the alternate position on that board. The members move up to a vacant full position.
Thank you.
But hold on. Don't we move the members alternates up? Did we
Yes,
move
you do.
an alternate up? Okay, thanks.
You do move the members up, but I posted the vacancy as an alternate, anticipating your act.
No, that was just a clarification that the board does not move the alternate up, we do.
Excellent clarification.
Thanks.
Is that true? I don't recall ever doing that.
You do it, but you do it quickly in a pro forma matter.
Ye-
Because it's somebody who's already there and we're just moving them up.
You
Right,
do.
why you don't remember.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we've mentioned what positions there are. Actually, I'll recount what positions are open opportunities to serve. We have the 3-year position, the Board of Assessment Review. As I mentioned, the Black Island School Committee is going to have one council-appointed person, which expires in 12/22. There'll be one 3-year position, a licensee on the Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire. There'll be 2 positions actually on the Deer Task Force. The Senior Advisory Committee, 1-year alternate position, and we posted that, so we should be able to appoint that at our next committee meeting, at our next council meeting. We've just appointed the Zoning Board, and we can deal with the Recreation Board perhaps at the next meeting. There's opportunities to run for office also. There are no candidates or more seats than candidates for the following offices and positions will be elected by write-in votes. All write-in candidates should contact the Campaign Finance Department or Board of Elections for the appropriate paperwork, and candidates must be registered to vote in the town of New Shoreham. Town employees may not hold elective offices. There is an opening for assistant moderator, a 2-year term, Block Island Housing Board, a 4-year term, and the school committee, a 4-year term. And these are for write-in, if someone wanted to do a write-in vote at this upcoming election for these positions. And thank you, Molly, for that update. Next item on the agenda is correspondence, just to receive notice as an abutter concerning the master plan stage application for a major subdivision of Overlook Realty LLC, Plat 19, Lot 3, West Side Road. We're noticed that the master plan stage application has been scheduled for public informational meeting before the planning board of the town of New Shoreham on Wednesday, October 14th, 2020 at 4 p.m. for the applicant's presentation on the proposed major subdivision of the property for the benefit of the planning board and the public. The planning board shall allow oral and written comment from the general public. The proposed major subdivision is being sought to create a 2-lot subdivision. Planning board meetings to be held virtually via Zoom pursuant to Rhode Island Executive Order 2025. As I'm sure most of you realize, the plat lot 19, lot 3 in question is the one basically between the Salt Pond settlement and the Champlin's Overlook at that meadow in between. So there will be, as noticed, we've been noticed that there will be a meeting on October 14th at 4 p.m. and an informational meeting presentation by the applicants. The next item on the agenda will will be to approve minutes. We have minutes to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 21st, open meeting.
Hang on a second. Second.
Thank you, Andre. A motion made and seconded by Andre. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
Molly? I'm sorry,
Aye.
Martha?
Something's muffled here. Aye.
I approve also. Motion carries unanimously. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes closed session meeting of September 21st.
Second.
Seconded by
Andre.
Andre. Thank you. Comments or corrections?
Um,
Any discussion of corrections would have to be held in closed session if they're sensitive.
I have a question about some of the wording on some of this, and there was in the minutes on the second page, there's an indication of a meeting with the council and Island Light and Power. I was just going to ask when that was going to be scheduled.
That was,
So it's not a change to the minutes, Andre. You just want to know when that what we discussed was going to happen.
yeah, we can,
Yeah, you all have that, right? The second
Yeah.
page.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
We can clarify. that for you.
So when is that?
That was
Sorry,
actually held.
Oh,
The council with ILP.
You mean an open meeting?
The
Molly's
council.
got her hand up.
Go ahead, Molly.
If
No, you're muted.
that was, that may require an amendment to those minutes. And I can, if you care to not approve those minutes, I can circulate an amended version.
I'll retract my motion.
Well,
Because
I-
that was.
can I ask you a question? Because I think actually the minutes, the way I read them was accurate. I think Andre was asking for when is the meeting?
We said we were going to schedule a meeting.
Right. So your question, that hasn't been scheduled.
So I think the minutes are accurate.
The minutes are accurate. I'm just asking when that meeting will be.
I agree.
I don't have an answer to that question at this time.
All right.
I don't either at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
All those in favor, Andre?
I.
Chris?
Aye.
Sven?
I with the meeting in October.
Martha? Martha?
Aye.
Thank you. I approve also. Motion carries. Motion to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by Chris. All those in favor? Aye.
I.
Chris?
Aye.
Aye.
Ben? Motion
Aye.
carries unanimously. Thank you all for coming. Mary Ann, thank you for joining us this evening also.
Thanks, Marianne.
And Martha, let us know if you need anything while you're mending over there.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Seriously.
No, I know.
Don't make
I
us
know.
all come over there right now, Martha.
No,
How much
it's,
eggnog?
I'm more wiped out than I thought I'd be, honestly.
Well, we wish you well. I mean, we didn't want to mention it, embarrass you during Warden's report, but we all wish you well and speedy recovery.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Everybody dropped off so we can embarrass you with less people.
Oh, that's good.
All right.
That's good.
Thank you.
Bye,
Talk to
guys.
you later.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.